Right, so we're all here at Motorcycle Live 2024. Let's go and have a good look around. This time we'll look at some of the classically in-style bikes that will be available in 2025 as seen at Motorcycle Live. Dot Motorcycle has been around since 1903 and is perhaps best known for its off-road models of the 1950s and 60s. During the hard period of the 1970s, the company downsized and survived through the production of spare parts for its well-respected off-roaders. The modern machines are exquisitely hand-built items based around a Kawasaki parallel twin 650 engine, like that used by the similar Italian patterns. The engine makes around 68 horsepower, not a huge amount, but given the lightweight, exquisitely built chassis that these bikes have, it's still enough to get a decent move on. The only downside is that these machines are rather expensive, over £20,000 per unit, but this is a hand-built machine with none of the big companies' economies of scale. Royal Enfield is indeed a company shrouded in history, and they had one of their Edwardian era quadricycles on display. Royal Enfield's 350 single has proven a real success story in recent years, and there are a number of options on show. Deb's favourite is of course the military style bike. She loves a bike in uniform. But if you prefer your machines with more modern styling, then the Hunter might be the bike for you, and with its low seat height it could be a great option if you're a little short in the leg. We all found the riding position on this bike particularly good. The 650 twin range continues to expand, this year seeing the introduction of the classic 650. The green's a nice colour, I think.
Do you think?
Oh, the chromey one.
Yeah, I don't like the colour.
It just does look a bling, don't it? If you like foot-forward controls, there's the Meteor 650. However, if like me you prefer central controls, there's always the Shotgun. And the new Bear if you want a bike that's slightly more off-road. But the Interceptor and Continental GT also remain available. Personally, I'm not a fan of the new blacked out engine look. However, the fully fed custom model on the stand I liked rather more. On the National Motorcycle Museum stand we found this very nice end-of-the-line 850 Commando Mark III. The latest iteration of Norton's Commando was of course on show, and while this is a machine that certainly had its ups and downs in the last few years, there's no doubt about the build quality of the current iteration. And I test rode one of these bikes last year and enjoyed it very much. Although rather like the Dot, of course, this is a machine built in tiny numbers, so is fairly pricey, although its power unit is of course rather more unique. While the style of Kawasaki's conventional range is, well, not to everybody's taste, their Z range of 650 and 900cc models definitely has broader appeal. And whilst not exactly a classically styled cruiser, their Vulcan cruiser has always enjoyed pretty good sales figures. The products of CCM, that's Clue's competition motorcycles, are very difficult to categorise. Are they classic or are they something else? But whatever they are, they're certainly unique, with styling unlike anything else on the road, except perhaps another CCM. And the company certainly shows how to best make use of limited resources. With a single chassis, used with some modifications across the whole range, and a common single-cylinder power unit, they've done a great job of developing a range of subtly different machines, all of which are essentially bespoke, designed to fit around the individual owner. The engine is a dual overhead cam 600cc water-cooled single, with power output varying between models. But whichever model you choose, you will certainly be noticed on a CCM. Ducati Scrambler has been around for quite a while now, and unlike the original single-cylinder machines, it now of course features the L-twin engine, and it's likely to be around for a considerable amount of time yet, because on introduction it supplanted the highly successful Monster model at the top of Ducati's sales figures. And while the Ducati V4 grabs all the headlines, it's bikes like this that keep the lights on. As we know, the Triumph range has been around for an awful long time, and few companies make play on their heritage quite as much as do Triumph. The basic twin-cylinder range is essentially unchanged, though there are a few tweaks and styling changes for this year. Deb's pick of the range would be the 900 Scrambler. With its torquey engine and accessible seat height, Deb thought it would make a great first bike for any lady, or shorter chap for that matter. Yes, I know some ladies are tall, but Deb is speaking from her own fairly average height perspective here. Deb's only caveat about the bike is when she tried it off-road, she found that stylish side-on exhaust tends to get in the way when you're trying to stand on the pegs. That aside, she was impressed with the bike in most regards. Some of the retro machines feature rather interesting paint jobs, although personally I did find that the paint job on this particular bike reminded me of the jumpsuits worn by Abbott on their Super Trooper album cover. A big success for Triumph this year has of course been their new single cylinder unit. Although strangely the seat height is taller than that of the 900, you need to get that sorted, Triumph. Another criticism is the very low first gear. Tom rode the bike at the trail course and found this to be something of a nuisance. And ergos, he said, were not good for a tall rider standing on the pegs. But for all that, we thought it a good looking machine. Fantic's Caballero range is a very different take on the Scrambler concept than that of the Triumph, being much more off-road focused. This unfortunately means as a consequence the machines are rather tall. They're available as a 125 or 500cc single or a 700cc parallel twin. BMW has a fairly long history of producing retro style machines, from calf racers to street scramblers, all based on their boxer twin. This year there are quite a lot of models and concepts that were based on the R18. This makes sense because the platform hasn't performed quite as well as expected as a cruiser, and this is largely because although a fine machine, those big cylinders mean that you can't have foot forward controls, and of course a lot of American riders do like this control layout. On the Honda stand there was the new CB350. The machine is of course in a worldwide sense not especially new and has been a popular machine in Asia for a number of years, but I don't think Honda had initially considered bringing the bike to Europe. However, the success of the Royal Enfield 350s has made them think again. Certainly the bike's simplicity will appeal to many, but how well it will perform in Europe against machines such as Triumph's much more powerful 400 is open to debate. The bulk of Honda's retro range of course is of smaller capacity, with the DAX, Monkey Bike and of course the Honda Cub all performing well across Asia, and to some extent in Europe too. Now Suzuki's Naked XV has been around for so long that it's now become a retro in its own right. But there is of course the reimagined Katana model too. But for me this machine doesn't really carry the spirit of the original bike in anything like the way the Kawasaki does. And it's quite an impractical machine with just a 12-litre fuel tank. But perhaps a more practical proposition, and in many ways a better retro job, is the SV1000. A bike whose styling does a great job at recreating the spirit of the original DR Big. Although the engine layout is very different from the original, you can think of it as a sort of a Suzuki off-road version of Ducati Scrambler. The BSA stand included this classic off-roader, and the choice of this machine seems very appropriate given that BSA were demonstrating their new Scrambler styled B65. A machine which, while definitely based on the current Gold Star model, does have an individual feel of its own, and we especially like this colour scheme in the traditional yellow competition colours. But there's different mudguards, a completely new seat, and the whole thing is raised up slightly on its suspension. And we felt the blacked out wheels and engine looked really cool. But for those who like a more traditionally styled bike, the standard Gold Star models were also on show. For me, Indian's engines and general styling does a great job of recapturing the spirit of the original 1940s and 50s models. And there's a range of models and options which is fairly comprehensive too. Personally, I'm a fan of the Scout models. They do have that traditional American V-twin look, but the package is altogether more modern. In short, they're machines that are not pretending to be anything they aren't. And if that machine isn't radical enough for you, there's always the FTR range. But ultimately, no one trades in heritage more than Harley-Davidson. And on the stand there was a range of traditional machines such as the WL and this very early single. But the Harley stand was perhaps the most disappointing. It was very quiet despite being a large stand. It included the all-new Sportster, the styling of which I'm still not convinced by, as well as a smattering of very overdressed bigger twins. Think you can't afford a big Harley style V-twin? Check out the Napoleon. It's produced by a company called Bender and features a 500cc A2 compatible V-twin engine. which to me bears a very strong resemblance to those new liquid-cooled Harleys.
Slightly put forward, but not as bad as some, is it?
The Royal Alloy name has been around in Britain now for a few years, and they had on display this rather marvellous 300cc scooter with a sidecar fitted, which we thought at 7.5 grand offered pretty good value for money. Well, as long as your passenger isn't too tall, the sidecar is a little bit cramped. The FBR Mondial range shares its power units with Aprilia, and the excellent 125 engine makes it a really stylish option for anybody looking to start their journey on two wheels. But if you're more of a budget, the Hanway is a good option too. And these little 125 air-cooled 4-strokes have been on the market for some time now. And like so many of the more long-standing Chinese manufacturers, production quality has definitely improved in recent years. Yamaha's XSR range is quite extensive, with engines ranging from 125 all the way up to that 900 triple. Styling has very much a 1980s vibe, with a kind of RD 350 feel to all of them. Pick of the bunch for me is the XSR 900 GP, with its extremely stylish Grand Prix style fairing and tailpiece. If only because it masks the rather ugly seat on the standard model. Definitely not the bike's best feature. Well, I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe, and of course, thank you very much for watching.